Merry Meet Witchlings, welcome back to the channel. It's the Twisted Witch Midnight Moonsong here. And today I want to talk to you a little bit more about a serious topic. I was on forums and I was seeing there's like a strange rise in witches sort of being meaner to other witches for their mistakes. Now, why I felt this is a topic that we could talk about is simply because a lot of it was being done with the understanding, and this is very strange to me, but with the understanding that when you're young, when you're a teenager, yeah, you're gonna make mistakes, but when you're an older witch, you shouldn't be making mistakes. And I don't know, that concept feels so foreign and weird to me because it doesn't matter what age you are, you're gonna make mistakes. And I felt that making a video giving my opinion on this, instead of just commenting on the forum, making an account to comment on the forum, would probably be a better option. I don't remember what the forum was called. I tend to just randomly go through random forum sites sometimes that involve witchcraft to see if there's anything interesting topics and whatnot to talk about. And this is one of those things. But one thing that, again, like I said, I'm surprised that this is a problem, I guess, but you never stop making mistakes. Yes, there are mistakes you don't make anymore, mistakes that you're more liable to make when you're younger, but there's no one on this earth that stops making mistakes. I mean, I'm not just talking about, doing a spell and not having it come out right. I'm talking about everyday mistakes, and the not so everyday mistakes. In witchcraft, we all come from different backgrounds. People come from religious backgrounds, people come from non-religious backgrounds. There's a whole wide cornucopia of different people, and each of these people going to have grown up a certain way, growing up thinking and feeling certain things. Even going into witchcraft, you can take some of these thoughts and feelings and habits from growing up in a certain lifestyle and take it over to witchcraft. That's no surprise. And sometimes, yes, it'll take several years sometimes, or well into your adulthood before you realize some of these things you're doing you probably shouldn't be doing. And that is not because we're young and stupid, but that is because when you grow up learning something from a young age, it becomes sort of in your DNA. It becomes a part of you. It's a way of thinking. In our early years of life, those are the most pivotal moments because those are when we start learning how to take care of ourselves. We start learning, who's our parent, who we are, who we're going to be, what our body can do. And if we're sort of fed certain ideals by our family and by other things around us, we'll take these ideals and apply them in our adulthood. And telling someone who's believed one thing one way their entire life, their entire existence, that, oh, this is wrong, you shouldn't do that, isn't always going to come across as something worthy of taking into yourself. Sometimes it takes someone time to make the wrong mistakes and really grow into the knowledge that, okay, hey, maybe they were right, maybe this is wrong. We're all guilty of that. I'm guilty of that. We all have things that we're not proud of in our past, and some things might be bigger than others. I'm hoping nobody has, done anything very, very horrible, but, people make mistakes. People, think one way and then realize that way of thinking isn't so great. For example, let's say, and maybe I could just use something from my life instead of pulling an example out of my head. One thing that people always taught me in my life was that, being gay is wrong. Being gay is not natural. So if you felt gay or you felt any sort of homosexual attraction at all, that was an abnormality. I now know that it's not, because I did my research when I was, coming into terms with my sexuality, I researched it. I looked into it. I wanted to know all there is about it. And I realized that way of thinking, even though I was accepting it, even though I didn't feel like being gay was wrong, I still looked at it like it was an abnormality, when in fact it occurs in nature quite naturally. And it's stuff like that. It's when you have this way of thinking that was put into you that sometimes takes several years to come out. And sometimes people do or make mistakes that hurt other people. And hopefully, though, I'm hoping not like to an extravagant amount, but it does happen. People make mistakes that kind of hurt other people's feelings and stuff like that. And I know it's a very slippery slope because in retrospect, and I'm a firm believer of this, always have been, live your life for you, do your craft for you. If someone else is offended by something, oh well, they're offended by it. You can't live your craft through someone else's ideals. You go with what your own nature intends. So if someone's nature says, oh, just spread love and light, don't do baneful work, okay, that's okay for them. And if it offends them that you do baneful magic, oh well, they're just gonna have to get over it. But there is still a line. And when you cross that line into territory, like let's say that an action that can actually really hurt people, it becomes different. Things do have to change at that point. And you don't always know when the line is, because your way of thinking and your way of being taught, even if you grew up in a Christian household and you've taken the path down to paganism, there's still ideals and such that were ingrained into you from birth that your family put there. And a lot of times, like I said a little bit earlier, it's going to take a lot longer and a lot more mistakes to realize, oh hey, this is probably not something I should be doing. And when you establish yourself and get into that zone of being an adult, and let's face it, when we all cross that bridge of being an adult, the first thing we think is, oh, I can do whatever the heck I want to now. You know, that's something there. Like, we have a sense of freedom. Even if we don't think we can do whatever we want, we do acknowledge there's that freedom now to make choices that we probably weren't allowed to make before. And when we make those choices, we start realizing that all that stuff that we learned growing up is definitely in effect. That the habits and stuff that we established play a prominent role in what we're doing now. And some of those habits can be destructive, but people don't realize they're being destructive because, like I said, it's something that was ingrained into them as time went on. And it's about breaking those habits. And it's not about doing it in a way of shaming people. Shaming people who are adults just because they also make mistakes is stupid. It's a mistake. It's a mistake a lot of young people seem to make, apparently. Because just because you're an adult or you cross the bridge into adulthood, it doesn't mean you're gonna stop learning your craft. I mean, it's prevalent in witchcraft. If you talk to any witch at all, whether it be on YouTube or on the forum site, most of them will say, and this is going to sound like a very broken record because I've heard it from so many witches, you never stop learning and growing in your craft. That means that you're going to undergo trials. That means you're going to make mistakes. That means that you're going to grow in your belief in what you believe is right and what you believe is wrong. Your moralities are going to change. You're going to evolve. You're going to adapt to the situations at hand that were presented to you. And that's one thing I think people don't look at when people start making mistakes that can be destructive. They don't see that, hey, that person might be someone who earlier in their life, this course of action was best. This course of action made sense to them. So it's not about criticizing them over this and shaming them for that thought. It's about trying to educate them and show them, hey, this is not the right way to do it. And even though you might offer this explanation, they're not always going to take it. Sometimes they have to make that decision. Sometimes they have to get hurt. Sometimes they have to sort of have punishment to realize, hey, I probably shouldn't be doing this. This is not the right course of action for me. I should probably make some changes. And that's okay. And at the same time, I'm not saying you can't like protect yourself. I'm not saying that if you do baneful magic and someone hurts you, that you shouldn't do baneful magic on them in order to protect yourself, because I do that. But I also, like I said, I am a one that believes that baneful magic definitely is okay. It's a choice. And when you do it, that could be that punishment that kind of wakes them up. If you look into lots of baneful work, there are lots of spells that talk about doing things to make someone feel the discomfort they're inflicting on someone, and only stopping when they've learned their lesson, when they've seen the error of their ways. And I believe that sometimes you have to let someone fall, even if you're not the one who does the baneful magic, or you see someone going on a destructive path. You can warn them, but in the end, it's their decision to make. It's not yours. They're the ones. And if you go to them with so much hostility to the point where you're shaming them, if you're mad, make it known that you're mad. That's perfectly fine. But go to them with the explanation of why it's wrong rather than shame. You can be mad, but shaming someone doesn't make them want to come onto your way of thinking. Even if they start messing up, because they were shamed, their reaction is often not going to be someone who says, well, I'm going to be welcomed over to that way of thinking. I felt shamed and ridiculed over there, so I don't want to be that type of person who shames and ridicules. I didn't like the way that felt, so I'm not going to take that road. And that's not what you want. You want to present your way with your facts and make it seem like a place that's unjudged, which in retrospect, honestly, I think that's what most of paganism should be. Whether it's something we agree with or not, I think that it should be something that's unjudged. So feel free to present yourself, present your reasoning, but in the end, don't shame them and criticize them for making their decision. Let their decision go. Let them make the choice. Let them see the error of their folly in their own way. If you want to cast a spell for that to happen, cast frick, I forgot what it's called, but cast a spell to let their choices be known. I guess a karma spell. Let it come back to them. Let them see the error of their ways. You can do stuff like that if you really want. But in the end, excuse me. In the end, it's going to be their decision. And when they do make the change, I also feel it's important not to dwell on that, not to dwell and criticize it. And like I see some people do, I demand an apology, I demand a public apology, blah, blah, blah. That just makes the situation worse. I'm a firm believer that actions speak louder than words. And like I said, I'm guilty of doing things when I was younger that, my goodness, I'm sorry. I'm guilty of doing things I wasn't proud of, and everybody's going to have that. It's human to have that. It's human to experience that, to realize, hey, that way of thinking is bad, and to come out of it. That's the important part. Not the fact that you're saying you're going to come out of it, but the fact that you're doing. That's why I don't make videos about that type of thing. I guess it can be therapeutic for some people to come out of that type of thing, and to be honest, the things I'm referring to happened way before I had a YouTube channel. I was an adult. I wasn't in my 30s like I am now, though. But I was a young adult, and I made mistakes. People do that. People do make mistakes. And then later on, I've changed. I've grown up. I've realized, okay, hey, that was a mistake. Don't do that again. And through my actions, I've not done the things I did. And I've also brought other people awareness who do something similar. It's like, hey, that's probably not the best course of action, and I use my own experience in that to explain that. It's like, I used to do the same thing, this is what happened, let's not do that again. That type of stuff. And that's all about what it is. That's all about what the world is. It's about learning and experiencing life and coming out of it. That's what's important. If you know what you did wrong and you're working to make it better, cool. I don't expect an apology. I don't care about an apology, because apology is just words. actions speak much, much louder. And honestly, if someone is sincerely sorry, and now this can be kind of a slippery road too, but there are people that have wronged me that have come out to be better, and they have been better. And I wish them the best of life. I wish them good luck in their journey, and I hope everything works out for them, but I don't forgive them, and I don't want them in my life because of what they did to hurt me. And that's okay too, but I'm not going out of my way to shame them. I'm not going out of my way to belittle them, especially when they're on the right path now, because doing that, shaming and belittling and showing that forceful expectation of, hey, you should be this way from the beginning, is not how to convince someone to stay on the right path. You need to support them and reassure them, hey, yeah, see, this is good. This is the path you're supposed to be on. And above all, don't dwell on the past. Don't forget the past, because it's important to learn from it, but don't dwell on it. Because if you dwell on it, the past becomes your present, and you don't want that. When the past becomes the present, you become unable to move forward. And as a community, we're supposed to be there to help, to educate one another if someone is doing something that is harmful, that is hurtful. People are gonna mess up, people are gonna make mistakes, and sometimes to one person, the perspective is, why would you do that? But to the other person who's doing it, that's something that was ingrained to them to always feel or always do or always acknowledge, and to them, it's like, why wouldn't you feel that way? So we have to remember that the perspective is definitely a thing, and that sometimes changing someone's perspective is not going to be very easy. And they're going to have to make those mistakes. They're going to have to get hurt. And it's only through that punishment that they're going to realize, oh, hey, maybe I should be a little bit better about this. And like I said, don't shame people if they've come around. If they've come around, praise that, encourage that. You don't have to forgive them, but cast the energy out there to accept that they're changing. You don't have to forgive them in it for what they did to you, and I know some people might not like that. Some people might be like, no, forgiveness is better. But honestly, I think forgiveness is one of those things that someone really, really has to earn. I don't think it's just automatic when someone does something to you and says sorry, or even makes a moment to change. I don't think that forgiveness is something that has to automatically be given in that stance. Sometimes the hurt that comes is a big hurt. It's a hurt that leaves everlasting scars, everlasting marks on you that are never going to go away. And in those cases, I think that it's okay not to completely forgive them. Encourage them to do better, I guess, sure, especially if they are doing better, encourage that. That way they don't continue to hurt others. But you don't have to forgive them and accept, oh, hey, everything's good between us now. You don't have to accept that. But do accept that they are making the change. And accept the fact that adults are going to make a lot more mistakes. They're going to be different mistakes. They might even be bigger mistakes sometimes, but they're going to be mistakes. You're never going to find a witch who hasn't made them. You're going to find a person who hasn't made them. Just because you're an adult doesn't mean you stop making mistakes. Doesn't mean you know everything. It doesn't mean you're going to go through this life not correcting yourself or not growing into a better person or a different person. Because we all grow up with a way of thinking. And sometimes it takes years and years of trial and error to come out of that way of thinking. The old adage, can't teach an old dog new tricks, kind of applies here. Because it's really hard for someone to take what they believe their whole life and suddenly be like, okay, no, that's 100% wrong. That's not easy to deal with psychologically. So it takes people time sometimes. And I know that it can be like aggravating. It can be aggravating. I know people who just, it's like, oh, I wish you would just freaking see already. Because they'll cause harm, and then they'll wonder why it comes back on them. And it's like, well, I mean, I think the answer's pretty obvious, but here's my opinion, go with it. And you just kind of have to wait. And it sucks. It really does suck. But it is what it is. And shaming someone and treating them like, oh, you should have known this already. That's not the way, I believe, to correct that kind of behavior. We have to realize that. And younger witches have to realize that older witches are human. They're going to make these mistakes. And it just honestly surprised me, the fact that there was this way of thinking that was out there. It really did. Because I honestly thought we were past this. I thought it was pretty obvious, but hey, that's their mistake. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's probably not what some of you were expecting, but hey, it's out there. I think it's a good topic to talk about. And I'm not saying, hey, tell me all your mistakes you made. You don't have to tell me any mistakes. In fact, I think talking about them, specifically and dwelling on them, can kind of hurt. It can bring back thoughts and feelings, and it can bring back certain previous mindsets to possibly try to work their way in and let people second guess themselves, which is why when I change my mind or I fix a past mistake, I don't like to dwell on it. Like I said, don't forget it so you don't repeat it, but don't dwell on it. Don't let it control your present, because then you're doomed to have no future. So, everyone's made mistakes. If you like this video, subscribe so you can stay tuned for more. Leave a comment telling me, well, I guess anything you want to tell me. I'm always here to talk. I enjoy every comment I get. I love talking with you guys and seeing your views on things. And even if our views are a little bit different on this, so be it. People's views are going to be different. That still doesn't mean that I don't like to hear them. I love to hear how people work their craft and what their niche is and stuff like that. So leave a comment talking to me. I'll most likely talk back. I do for most of them. Hit that notification bell to stay tuned for future videos, and I will see you all next time. Blessed be.